Okay, here we go. Ding, 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 and a one, a two, a one, two.
Remote learning has become the proverbial new normal for higher education as Stony Brook University joins colleges and schools all across the nation in protecting students and faculty and staff from in-person classroom learning risks, while we continue to provide meaningful instruction in innovative ways. In our case here at Stony Brook, we're talking about a beyond large-scale virtual learning scenario for over 26,000 students, engaging some 2,700 faculty colleagues. I'm Interim Stony Brook University President Michael Bernstein, and I'm grateful today to welcome remotely several colleagues who are leading our efforts in pursuing non-traditional instructional technologies to serve the needs of our students and our faculty and staff during this extraordinary and very challenging time. Let me introduce our guests. First, Charlie Robbins, a professor of social welfare at the university. He's the vice provost for undergraduate education and student success, and he serves as the dean of our undergraduate colleges. Charlie, your role as vice provost and dean, along with your passion for student success in its many varied aspects, including the academic and the emotional and physical well-being of our students, has me looking forward to your particular perspectives on remote learning. Thank you for joining us. Patricia Aceves is the Assistant Vice President and Assistant Vice Provost in our Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. She has been involved for over 2 decades in developing novel technology platforms for online instructional delivery. Patricia, all of this work in the online domain with both adult learners and traditional college students makes you uniquely qualified to talk about the challenges we now face. And I'm very interested in hearing from you about the changing face of online learning. It's changing by the hour, it seems, and how it's standing up to the test as we're putting it in place now here at Stony Brook. And finally, let me introduce Diana Voss, the Director of Academic Technology Services in the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. Diana and her team, including a variety of undergraduate student employees themselves, support numerous technology platforms in our online efforts, including Blackboard, Adobe Connect, VoiceThread, Digication, Clickers, Echo 360, and Qualtrics. Diana will be in a unique position during our conversation today to talk about the trends that CELT, our Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching, has been seeing and how the university is navigating through these trends as we proactively pursue technology solutions in the present crisis. Again, thank you all for joining me in this conversation. I know we're going to learn a great deal. Our viewers and listeners are eager to hear what you have to say. So let's get started. I'm going to start with Charlie Robbins. It's clear, of course, state the obvious, Charlie, none of us have experienced such a pervasive, long-lasting interruption to traditional so-called normal educational experience. So speaking from the perspective of your role, your leadership role in undergraduate education here at Stony Brook, what do you see as the most significant set of challenges we're facing right now in this non-traditional departure?
I think for the university to be able to just move all of our instruction into a remote format so that we can protect the integrity of our semester and protect the ability of our students to be successful, to finish out the semester, get credit and move on toward the degree has been awe-inspiring to see how many people have pitched in together, all of the leadership of the institution, all of the faculty, all of the staff. It's really a tribute to what Stony Brook is, that everybody was willing to come together and by this past Monday, we had all of these classes online and available for our students to begin the semester again. And for the most part, it's worked really well, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive.
So, Charlie, let me just follow up on that. I'm interested in particular, and I know we're only a few days in here. You may not have a lot of responses so far, but what are we hearing from students about their initial experience over the course of the past 3 days?
Well, as you said, it's just been 3 days, and I think the experience, as I said, is overwhelmingly positive. One of the things that we are very concerned about is ensuring that all of our students have equal opportunity in terms of completing their education. And the reality of our diverse university is there are students coming from situations that aren't the best for learning. They're coming from situations where they may not have either the family support or the opportunity in their homes, or even a computer or access to a computer. So we've been working with colleagues in our Student Affairs Division, as well as SUNY, to try to make sure that all students have access to the kind of education that they can engage with and do well and learn and move forward.
So, Charlie, one more point, and then I'll pivot to Patricia and Diana on some of these issues. The overall vibe you're getting so far. I mean, you're at the apex of the undergraduate education division at our university so far. Again, just a few days in. What would be your overall assessment of the feeling and attitude out there about this remarkable experiment, really, in which we're now engaged?
I think we've gotten off to an amazing beginning. Like we both said, it's just been 3 days. Have there been some concerns raised? Absolutely. And we are working literally 24/7 to try to iron out all of those issues, to try to make sure that again, all of the needs of faculty are being served, all of the needs of students are being served. We understand that this kind of enterprise and trying to change this kind of enterprise so rapidly is just something that is unheard of. And I'm, again, really proud of where we are. Are there going to be some things that or as actually I've heard President Bernstein say, are there going to be some eggs broken in this process? Absolutely. But we're going to do the best we can to minimize that. And if students and faculty reach out to us as they are, if they have any concerns, then we're trying to address those as quickly and as completely as we possibly can.
Before turning to Patricia, I'll just say, Charlie, you know better than almost anybody at this university that we have been talking for years and years and years about pursuing non-traditional instructional platforms. And here in just a couple of weeks, what has been accomplished has been remarkable. And the old saying, necessity is the parent of invention. And you and your team have been inventing away for days on end. And I would agree with you. While not perfect, it's all very good, and we're going to learn more and more as we go along. So in that sense, let's turn to Patricia Aceves. Patricia, you and your team in CELT, among many other responsibilities, have been tasked for years in helping faculty learn about new instructional methodologies, and in this particular case, adjusting to a new normal, quote unquote, in non-traditional classroom scenarios. A steep learning curve for sure. So can you tell us a bit about what you're hearing from faculty colleagues as they step up into this new digital world?
Thank you, Michael. Yes, we've been hearing a lot from faculty over the last 2 weeks as this whole pandemic and crisis has evolved, literally as a minute-by-minute process. And initially, I think it is very scary for faculty and students to very suddenly shift their instructional paradigm to something that's unknown for most of them. And what I'm hearing from faculty is they are being very patient. They're patient with us. They're patient with the technology. The entire community has come together in support of their students and continuing their instruction to make sure that the students don't lose out on any of the instruction or any of the experience that they are owed and that they're due from the university. And so really the faculty have come together. We had a couple of bumps in the road. We had our learning management system go down on the very first day. And while faculty were panicked and some students were panicked, for the most part, the responses that we received were very understanding. Faculty said, we know that you're going through a lot right now and we're trying to be patient. So, let's all hang in there together. So I've been just overwhelmed with the positive response and the patience and the understanding and the compassion that faculty have had, both for the experience that everyone is going through, but as well as the experience of their students.
Thank you, Patricia. Let me ask, are faculty holding virtual office hours? Again, we're only a few days in, but I'm curious if you've had some input about that, or students taking advantage. What are you hearing about that side of the instructional experience?
So I think initially faculty had hoped that they could all teach live and stream from their classrooms or from their offices. And as we realized what would happen as students were dispersed around the world is that might not be a reality for all of the courses. And so what many faculty are doing is they're recording instruction to put asynchronously that students can watch, and then they're holding their class time for office hours or solving problems, or students just coming in and working through questions that they have about the content. So that seems to be the direction that the majority of the faculty are going to. And other faculty who are teaching live are also holding the live office hours. For my own class right now, my TA is reaching out to students and doing one-on-ones with them. And so I think that's making the students feel much more comfortable, is that they still have the interaction, the opportunity to have one-on-one with their faculty and their teaching assistants.
Great points, Patricia. I'd just like to emphasize for many of our viewers and listeners, operating in the online environment, where we realize we have many, many students who they're literally distributed all around the country and all around the world. So time zone issues become relevant. And you hear Patricia talking about so-called synchronous and asynchronous teaching. We have to take into account that some of our students at a regularly scheduled class time may be in a part of the world where it's, 2 in the morning. So we're trying to take into account all of these, special issues and in some cases challenges, operating in this distinctive new environment. Diana, let me draw you into this conversation and ask, with respect to all the faculty standing up this non-traditional instruction and all the work, all of you in CELT, and of course Charlie Robbins and his leadership team in undergraduate education, are you seeing students playing a role in, if you will, teaching our faculty how to be more digital in their orientation?
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Thank you. So in CELT, 2 years ago, we decided to pilot a program for undergraduate students who are put in a situation where they can help faculty on one of the goals. I have a picture I want to show everybody. So closer to the mic. Okay.
Yeah, we need you to come a little closer to the mic. Thank you,
Sorry.
Diana.
So
Go ahead. We see the picture.
Yeah, of our students. There are about 18 undergraduate students who started answering calls from faculty once it was realized that we would move to remote instruction. They are our first line support, and they are supported by a great team of staff in CELT that are there. But it's been rewarding to hear them on the phone telling faculty, "It's okay. I understand. I'm here to help you." And they have been part of the team that has been up to us. We're very proud of them.
That's great it's great to hear about the student support. As we like to say about our students, they're the digital natives around here, so we want to follow their lead as best we can. Let me ask you, Diana, just to follow up here. There can be challenges with regard to academic integrity and the security of exams and other assignments in the online environment. What are you seeing so far? What advice do you have for our faculty colleagues as they confront this set of issues as we operate in the new environment?
So what we have done and what I'm asking faculty to do is, in Blackboard, there is a pledge that we have posted that Charlie Robbins gave to us. We're asking faculty to encourage students to take the pledge. If you'd like, you could also make it into a survey in your Blackboard course. We can help you do that, to take the pledge. Anything that you can do to make it easier for students to take exams at this point is appreciated, because they have technological issues, time issues, and some of them are at home with their families, and they don't have quiet environments that work with web cameras really well. And if you have questions, please reach out to us, whether it's
Thank you. Thanks to Diana. So I want to invite the three of you to talk about a new subject that, in a way, just confronted us as we went online with the resumption of instruction this past Monday after our spring break. And we had an unfortunate incident where some people intervened in a particular class and posted some quite obnoxious and disturbing words and statements. I've learned a new phrase. This is apparently referred to as Zoom bombing, referring to people dropping bombs, if you will, in a Zoom session like our digital instruction formats. So, Patricia, why don't I start with you? We're hearing a bit about this Zoom bombing phenomenon. It's happened here. It's happening at other institutions like ours. Maybe you can tell our viewers and listeners about this phenomenon, how it can be prevented, what steps we're taking to address this.
So Zoom bombing refers to the web conferencing platform Zoom that many campuses are using right now, including Stony Brook. And the idea of bombing, Michael, is that unwanted people are showing up in the web conferencing classroom, similar to when someone photobombs you. They'll stand behind you in a picture, or they'll somehow manage to, an unwanted person will show up in a picture. And the same thing is happening inside of our Zoom classrooms. While we do have it locked down through our information security protocols, what we're finding happening is that if the meeting link somehow gets shared outside of the class or outside of the students, that others can access the course, others who are not enrolled in the course. And that's when people can come in and do nefarious things inside of the class. So we have taken some additional steps to further lock down the classrooms, the individual classrooms, and faculty just have to click a few settings to make sure that classes are even more secure to only students who are registered. And then we've also provided steps for them to take in order to remove someone who might become unruly or start behaving in an incivil way within the classroom.
Thank you, Patricia. Actually, let me draw Charlie in here. Charlie, you and a couple of other members of the leadership sent out a campus-wide communication yesterday, as you titled it, a response to incivility. I mean, it had to do with this particular unfortunate incident I referenced a moment ago. Maybe you could say a few words about, obviously, what was shared in that message with the campus community and how this relates to our general expectations about student conduct and our code of student responsibility.
Sure, thank you. So we sent out a communication to the entire campus community, reaffirming our belief in civility, our belief in the importance of interacting with each other in a respectful way, the importance of diversity. It's important for everybody to understand, students and faculty and staff, that what goes on in an online environment is the same as what goes on in person. So you can't say things or do things in an online environment and think that it's okay to get away with it, or somehow you're anonymous there so people can say things. We wanted to reinforce for the whole community what was expected of us. As a matter of fact, before the semester started this past weekend, with the assistance of Diana and Patricia and others, we posted on Blackboard a statement about civility and behavior, as well as our Stony Brook Community Pledge, that all students now see when they log into Blackboard for the first time to start the semester. So we want to just reiterate as often as possible what the expectations are for behavior, as well as what the consequences are if students are found responsible for some of these actions. We think it's a very small minimum number of students, but nevertheless, it's very disruptive. The last thing I'll say about this is later on this afternoon, or possibly first thing in the morning, there'll be a new communication going out to all faculty and TAs and instructors, which will really give them some guidance on what to do if there is a disruption in class. If something happens that is uncomfortable, if someone says something that's inappropriate, exactly what they're there to do. A number of us met yesterday. We drafted the statement last night. I'm putting the final edits on it this afternoon or this evening, and we'll get it out to everybody in the community. So all faculty are equipped to deal with any kind of eventuality that might come up in the online environment.
Thank you, Charlie. This brings up a related set of issues, not about disruption or inappropriate behavior, but about, again, dealing with special issues and challenges surrounding the digital environment. And that concerns our students who are specially enabled and might have issues in terms of accessibility with respect to digital technology and so forth. So, Diana, maybe you'd like to speak briefly to this question of how we address the needs of our specially enabled students and how we're making sure that our digital platforms are inclusive in that respect.
Thank you, Michael. So we work closely with SASE, which provides support to students, and any students that are enrolled in classes that SASE is aware of. If that class has used Echo, those are captured. We also do provide assistance for faculty for accessibility needs, and we are trying to work with Echo 360 for universal capture. They're working on this, so faculty recording from home will soon have the ability to close caption their classes as well, so and transcription services. So those are the tools that we're providing, and we always encourage faculty to reach out to us. If there is a student that their faculty member is not meeting their needs, we're going to ask you to reach out to SASE and let them know so that Wendy and her team can assist as well.
And just for the sake for some of our viewers and listeners from beyond our campus, SASE is our student accessibility office that works on these issues with faculty and staff and students. They do a terrific job. Diana, let me continue with you. We actually reached out in anticipation of this conversation. We reached out to some students. We asked for some input and questions from them. So I'm going to mention a few questions here. Diana, maybe you could quickly address them, and if you feel you want to ask Charlie or Patricia to chime in, that's fine too. But we have one student has asked us, I am nervous, they write. I'll not be able to complete my online exam in the allotted time due to a slow Wi-Fi connection. What should I do?
If students are finding themselves in those situations, please reach out to your professors. Let them know what you're going through. Whenever possible, try to be on a wired connection, not Wi-Fi. That helps. But again, if you are having trouble taking your quizzes, reach out to your faculty. Please let them know.
And I suppose the same would apply. We hope it doesn't happen again. But if Blackboard went down in the middle of an exam, I suppose many instructors would know about that, but students should speak up about that. Another student has asked, is it possible to gain access to the Zoom meetings? We're working with the Zoom platform in our classes. Is it possible to gain access without going through Blackboard, our learning management system?
Yes, it is. In that situation, ask your professor to send you a direct link to the Zoom meeting, and then you'll be able to connect that way.
Great. And another question. I know we're a little bit down in the technical weeds here, but that's what you do, and this is useful to our listeners and viewers. One student has written and asked, how can they share VoiceThread with their professor? And you might explain to our viewers and listeners what VoiceThread is.
So VoiceThread is a tool that we provide that allows for narrated PowerPoints. The concept behind it is students can post media, PowerPoints, whatever they have created, and others can talk around the media. It's a system that integrates with Blackboard. So if your professor has used the VoiceThread assignment, you should be able to submit that assignment through VoiceThread. Otherwise, you can log into VoiceThread directly and then share that VoiceThread with your instructor.
That's great. And speaking of submitting assignments, so one final quick question from a student. It turns out they submitted the incorrect assignment in one of their classes, and they're trying to figure out how to delete that and submit the right assignment. Is there some guidance you can give them with that problem?
please contact your instructor and let them know what they probably have done is not allowed multiple attempts. So they will need to clear that assignment for you, that attempt, so that you can go in and post your assignment.
So this comes from the instructor first, not from the student first.
Everything that we're talking about on the IT page, we have 3 resources for faculty, staff, and students. They are Keep Learning, Keep Teaching, and Keep Working. So everything that, all the technical questions that you have, please go to that website to find out information. And if you need help, we encourage everybody to reach out to us, and we will do our best to help you.
That's terrific, Diana. Thank you. I know these, as I say, these were some questions a little bit down in the weeds, but I think we get them answered, which is very nice, but I think it also gives viewers and listeners a sense of some of the complexities and some of the unanticipated pushing and pulling that comes from moving into a non-traditional learning environment. And I also think it gives everyone a sense of how quickly and adroitly the entire team, faculty, technical and administrative staff, and students have stepped up into this environment and are really clearing the way to outstanding solutions. So, Charlie, let me come back to you apropos of all of these digital developments and ask about the other aspect, another very important aspect of the learning experience at our university, which is advising. How has the academic advising team, which you have led for years and years, how have they managed this transition to remote advising? What's working? What maybe isn't working so well? What have we learned so far?
You know, similar to what you had said earlier about the transition to an online platform for instruction, we've been talking for years about having some remote advising and other services, and it's very difficult. And yet, now in a matter of less than 3 weeks, the Division of Undergraduate Education has transitioned to be able to provide all of its advising services. So every advising unit on campus, the undergraduate colleges, ATAS, pre-health advising, have all transitioned to an online platform. So the Honors College University Scholars Program, all of the programs are now available to students through an appointment system. They just need to sign in. They can schedule an appointment, I think, as far out as a week ahead, and take advantage of meeting with their academic advisors, or at least one of the academic advisors, to get the support they need. And we're anticipating and believe that because of this transition, students will need even more support than traditional. So we geared up for that. We're ready for that, and the services are there. Our Academic Success and Tutoring Center has also transitioned to all digital tutoring. Both the individual tutoring and group sessions are available. As Patricia was saying, similar to what happened with Blackboard, our platform for online tutoring crashed on Monday. But through the leadership of the Academic Success and Tutoring Center, we were able to get it back up and online, and it's been working fine since then. So all of those services are available. The last thing I wanted to say is that there will be an open session tonight that is online, available for all students. Similar to our pop-up advising that we offer throughout the year, this is going to be a digital pop-up advising. All of the major student service areas will be represented there. Dr. Shelley, the Associate Provost for Academic Success, will be moderating the session and really responding to student questions as many as come in. You can register on the Cork app that's available, and students all know how to do that, and register for the event tonight. And we look forward to really being able to address your concerns, address your issues, and make sure that in fact, the way that we've set up the services are really meeting your needs.
Charlie, so students can find their way to all of these digital resources just through the main university website? Do they go to the Division of Undergraduate Education? Do they simply search on these keywords? How should they go about locating all of these supports?
The easiest place to look is at our new student success website, which is one-stop shop. It should have all of the links that we're talking about. You can get there directly by Googling Stony Brook Student Success. You can get there by entering through the Division of Undergraduate Education. But all of the answers to the questions that you have, all of the links to the services that you need, the ways to make appointments with all of your academic advisors should be found in that one location.
That's great, Charlie. Thank you. And one more question for you in this segment, because we have gotten some queries about this, and I know you have. Looking ahead to the fall semester, I know that may seem quite far away at the moment, but it's coming. When should students start contacting their advisors about fall registration? And again, assuming they're going to start doing that digitally, what advice do you have for them about next steps?
So the answer to that is yesterday. Believe it or not, and I know this is hard to believe for folks, but registration for summer and fall 2020 semester begins at the end of this week. So students, the schedules were released on Monday, so all of that's available to all students now to know what courses are listed and when they're going to be taught. So students should start to be connecting with their advisors now to make sure that they are able to get the courses that they need to continue to make degree progress and meet their educational needs. So the sooner the better.
Well, I do want to, before we shift to our next set of questions, let me just follow on what you've just said, Charlie. And it may be hard to believe, as you say, that yesterday was the registration deadline. The past few weeks have been so challenging, troubling, disturbing, confusing for all of us, and certainly for all our faculty, staff, and students. And as we sort of regain our footing and our poise in all of this, maybe on one level, it's reassuring to know we are registering for the fall semester. The university's mission continues. Students are going to graduate and finish their degrees. New students are going to enroll. New courses will launch. And despite all of the disorientation in a way that all of us, I know, experience both in our work lives and in our personal lives, there's also a continuity and a progress that I hope can bring all of us some solace and some composure. Patricia, Diana, I want to shift the focus back to you now to talk about techniques again and tools. Patricia, obviously, you're overseeing digital instruction on a scale you might have imagined, but indeed just dreamt about. Now you're in the middle of this for real. I'm curious, as you reflect on what you once dreamt about and what you're now seeing, what have you been able to use from what you speculated might happen, and what has been, what has required absolute novel reinterpretation in these past few days?
So that's a really interesting question. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is this has provided all faculty with a push to teach their courses online, even when they thought it was not possible. Throughout my entire career, I've spoken with many faculty who say, my course can absolutely not be taught online. And we're now learning that there are ways to do it. And there are still some courses, especially hands-on courses and practicums and labs, that we're still working through, and we don't have that solved yet. But it has provided the impetus to use the technologies that we now have available, which are very robust, to allow faculty who never thought it was possible to do something that is new and unique and novel for them. And to your other question, in terms of what I had dreamt about and what is reality, I think while this has pushed us to experience something using our tools that we never thought we would have to, it also required us to do it very quickly, and perhaps more quickly than any of us would have liked. And in terms of online learning, this is not an ideal experience for any of us, but we're using the tools we have and we're making the best of it to provide the same quality of Stony Brook education that our students would have received if they were sitting in front of us. And moving forward into summer, as we know that those courses will also be offered online, we want to take these next couple of weeks before the semester ends to be able to educate our faculty, provide the best tools for them and the best practices for them that they can use moving into summer, and then even into the future beyond that if they find that they like this new medium of delivery.
So, Patricia, that's fascinating. Let me ask, what kinds of training materials or resources went out, if you will, beforehand, before we resumed instruction this past Monday, and assuming they went out to both faculty and students in some way, and what's the relationship between those resources that were deployed and what you had been making available in the past when online instruction was an option but not a necessity?
So we immediately put up, at the request of Charlie Robbins in the provost office, we immediately put up our Keep Teaching website. And I give a lot of credit to Diana and to Rose Terada, our instructional design team, all of the folks in CELT for putting that up quickly and making self-service materials available to faculty. A lot of videos, webinars, and self-help materials, as well as providing email, phone, and chat support through the evenings for faculty to get help for the last 2 weeks. And so that was what we made available immediately. Some of the things that we've done in the past when it was optional was providing a live instructor-led online training for faculty to actually experience what it's like to be an online student. And we are continuing to make that available. We are enrolling faculty right now in 2-week and 4-week long training sessions that they can participate. And we've actually been finding over the last 3 weeks that we've had to open additional sections. So we're enrolling about 20 faculty per section. And we're opening more sections all the time because the demand has really grown for faculty to say, wow, this is new, this is different, and I really want to learn how to do this right.
I know that there have been a lot of listserv conversations going on among faculty in the various colleges and schools, sharing experience, sharing information, directing their colleagues to resources, and helping people, step up to online instruction and get their courses launched. Let me ask Diana, just looking at the technical side of some of the issues Patricia has just posed. What limitations are you seeing right now? Admittedly, we're still early in this experiment, but what limitations are you initially seeing with things like Zoom? Issues about scale, large capacity demands versus smaller classes, and so forth. What are you seeing so far?
With Zoom, we haven't seen capacity issues in the sense that it doesn't work, or with Zoom, you have to think about how you want to use Zoom. Does it make sense to have all your students be on camera? Does it not? Do you want to allow them to participate actively? So that's Zoom. It's more of a learning curve than a functionality of the software. So that's what we've been seeing with Zoom. We have had some issues with Blackboard, like we stated earlier. Those are being addressed. And what I really want to make sure everybody understands is if something isn't working right, please tell us. You can report issues, but you can also go to our status page on the IT site. Just Google Stony Brook IT status, and that will let you know if we are aware of issues with any of our systems.
One further question in this regard, Diana, are we in touch directly with Zoom, and are we sharing information with them? Are they sharing information with us? Because I assume they're learning a lot from across the country, as all institutions are using, not all, but a vast majority of institutions are using the Zoom platform.
So all of our Zoom has been in touch with us. Actually, all of our vendors have been in touch with us, and we've been in touch with them. The vendors around this country right now are working really hard to make sure that everybody has the support that they need. Sometimes it takes a while, but that's because there's a lot of people. But Zoom has been responsive as well as other.
Thank you, Diana. Charlie, let me come back to you before I want to talk more broadly with the time we have left about the experience with online instruction. But Charlie, let's just pause for a second, talk a bit about grading, evaluations, and so forth. I know as we anticipated resuming instruction in this novel environment, both faculty and students started to engage in conversations about grading methodologies, again, in an altogether new landscape. So maybe you can share with listeners and viewers what decisions we've made regarding grading for the balance of the spring semester 2020, and indeed explain to students who are listening and viewing this podcast how new grading options may work for them.
Thanks for this opportunity to talk about grading, because I know there's a lot of discussion about it and concerns that are being raised. We understand that we are not doing business as usual, but yet our educational mission is continuing, and this is different for everybody. Most people did not sign up to take online courses, and yet here we are. Most people did not sign up to teach online courses, and yet here we are. And so we wanted to try to take some of the pressure off. We wanted to try to give a little bit of a release valve for as many of our students as we could. And we also understood that some students, for a variety of reasons, wanted to in their classes, wanted to have graded classes. So what we've come up with, and this is not unique to Stony Brook, but what we've come up with is all students, depending on college and school, will have the option of either asking for the grade that they've earned in the course, the actual letter grade itself, or they can have a pass no credit. And any grade above a C or better, will count as a pass. Below a C will be a no credit. For this semester only, that the pass designation will count for credit for majors, will count for credit for minors, will count for credit for prerequisites. So it's important to know that students will be able to make decisions now about whether they want to designate pass no credit or take a grade beginning today and all the way up through May 9th, which is the last day of classes. So that students will be able to get a sense of how the class is going and how they feel they're doing. Faculty will not know, I think this is critical, faculty will not know whether students are designated to get a grade or designating to get the pass no credit. So they will enter a grade as they normally do in the system. And then through the registrar's office, we will transition that either to maintain the letter grade itself, or to enter the pass no credit. The final thing I want to say is that later this afternoon, if it hasn't been done already, but at some point this afternoon, I've been assured that a frequently asked questions page specifically regarding grades will be posted on the university main frequently asked questions page that will also be linked on the student success page that I alluded to before. So all of the information, all of the questions, all of the questions about the actual process will be available on the frequently asked questions page, posted later this afternoon if it hasn't been already. As well as please reach out to your advisors. They have been briefed on this, so they are able to respond to questions you had. Let me just say one more thing. Students can designate pass no credit for as many classes as they are taking. There was a little bit of a glitch in our solar system earlier this week where students could only system wasn't allowing them to register for more. that should be fixed by now, or it will be fixed quickly. They're working on that, and that has been a question that I've been getting lots of emails about. But students can designate the pass no credit for any classes that they're registered in, as long as the college and school approve that.
Charlie, that was very helpful. Let me just follow up here. I'm sure you would advise students, you may want to speak to this. Students may face certain grading requirements given the nature of their degree programs. If they're in a degree program that's accredited in a particular way, or that leads to licensure in a professional setting, so they should be sure, as they contemplate their grading options, to be in close contact with advisors about what are the best choices and the most appropriate choices and what the implications of those choices are, correct?
Absolutely, and it varies from program to program. So again, I believe it's really important for students to speak to their general academic advisors, to speak to major advisors, to really understand this. So the reason that some of our professional programs, such as social welfare, health technology management, and nursing, are not participating in this is because their licensure and accreditation boards do not approve of the pass no credit. But all of the other schools on campus are participating. But this is a serious decision. Shouldn't be automatic. It should be something that's considered seriously, and any questions should be directed to a member of the advising staff or someone in the major department.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, just to emphasize, I think for our listeners and viewers, the flexibility in grading options has been developed and deployed by the academic leadership at the university, acknowledging the extraordinary circumstances in which we find ourselves. But students, Charlie has put it very well here, the implications of a decision here are significant. So students should be sure, especially if they're in a specially accredited program or a program leading to licensure, to consult with their advisors before they make any decisions. Speaking of grades, I want to bring Patricia in here to talk about examinations. I know for years and years, much as we have talked about online instruction in principle, we've also talked about digital examination formats. So I'm wondering what you've been hearing, Patricia, from the faculty as we move to a digital examination format, and what are some of the opportunities here, and what are some of the challenges that we've identified so far?
So this has been probably one of the things that we've heard from faculty around examination integrity and how we can conduct proctoring live. Many faculty would like to have students come into the classroom to continue to be proctored. Since that's not possible, one of the things we first looked at was live proctoring. There are companies that do offer that, where an individual from a company will proctor live students using their webcam. And as we're finding at this late date, it's very hard to engage with those companies because they're experiencing overload, as many the technology platforms are right now. So we're examining what we do have available, and we have a couple of tools available to faculty through Blackboard. One is Respondus Monitor, which requires students to have a webcam. And then there's Respondus Lockdown Browser, which students install on their computer, and they are then prohibited from navigating outside of the testing window. It locks down their browser to only the testing window. So both of those tools are available, but they do require that students have computers, Mac or PC. It also requires students have a webcam, which many of them don't. So that takes us to Plan B. And that's what we've been hearing from a number of students who are panicked that they don't have reliable internet connectivity, they don't have a webcam, or they don't have a computer. They only have a tablet or a phone device. So there are other options that our staff in CELT have been assisting faculty with to set up their exams in Blackboard in a way that will continue to provide exam integrity, and that will minimize the ability for students to find the answers elsewhere, I should say. But what I've heard from students, and I'll say, and Charlie, you can probably agree or disagree with this, but students at this point they're very nervous. As you just talked about grades, they're very nervous about this entire process. They're nervous about the rest of the semester. And what I've been hearing from students is that dishonesty, academic dishonesty, is the furthest thing from their mind right now, and that they want to do the best they can in their classes. And so I think in this whole situation, my personal opinion is that we need to take a leap of faith with our students and our faculty, and be as flexible as we can be with them through the examination process.
Thank you, Patricia. I'd like to follow on something you said about student anxiety regarding the consistency of or accessibility of Wi-Fi and things of this nature. We know these are challenging issues for many of our students, and it is important. I want to continue to encourage students to speak up, by email, by phone, by text, letting instructors know, letting our digital technology leadership know, letting our academic leadership in the Division of Undergraduate Education, led by Vice Provost Robbins, let us know what's going on. We will work very hard and as quickly as we can to resolve these issues. We know that there are a lot of balls in the air, and we know these are challenging times. We want to work to solve these problems with you. We have a few minutes left, and so I want to invite my three guests to sort of, if you will, get to the 50,000-foot level and talk broadly about their impressions so far in the very starting moments of this remarkable experiment of innovation in education at our university. So I'll state the question generally, and then we can I'll try and direct who should respond. For the benefit of all our students, faculty, and staff, and all our viewers and listeners, maybe each of you could share some advice for people on all sides of the remote learning platforms. Teachers on the one side, students on the other, parents, friends, staff, technicians, whatever. Maybe you can share with them some tips about how to make the most of what is an extraordinary experience, and yes, on one level, very stressful, but at the same time, a new experience nonetheless, from which we're all going to learn a great deal. Why don't we start with you, Diana? What words of wisdom can you share with all of us in these early days of our resumed instruction?
Thank you, Michael. So one of the things, we have an opportunity here for students to demonstrate how they can use technology to showcase their learning and experiences. So I invite faculty whenever possible, and this is also true for K-12 teachers, whenever you have an opportunity to give an assignment and not dictate what technology is used, I think we have a real opportunity here for the students to show you what they could use and how they can use it effectively. And the second point I'd like to make is our Keep Learning website was actually designed by one of our undergraduate students, Sophia Saladino, and that site has been put together to provide guidance for students on technology, and it also addresses time management skills and other things like that. So we encourage the students to visit our site for tips, and if you have additional suggestions, please let us know.
Thank you, Diana. Patricia, from your vantage point as the director of CELT and our online guru all these years, what are the tips you can share with us?
My advice is practice, practice, practice. If you haven't used the technology yet, if you haven't used Zoom yet, get in practice. Students, if you haven't explored Respondus Monitor or Respondus Lockdown browser yet, and you have an exam coming up, download it now. Get practice, become familiar with it, and any questions you have, reach out to either your faculty colleagues. There are a number of them across the schools and colleges that are assisting their colleagues because they've taught online or they're very tech savvy. Go to your colleagues and please, please, please call our CELT staff and email us, text us, chat with us. We are here to help, and we will walk you through it. We're here to hold your hand and ensure that you are successful and your students are successful, but please practice.
Thank you, Patricia. And Charlie, maybe I can turn to you for some insights to share on the basis of these few days of experience.
I think what I want to say is to just take a deep breath, and let's put one foot in front of each other. What makes Stony Brook are the people, and I have witnessed over these last couple of weeks students and staff and faculty coming together, and really working to ensure that our students can get the quality education that Stony Brook is known for. So please, as was already said, any issues, any problems, make sure we know about them. Don't assume we know about it, because we may not. And we will do our best to address the concern. But let's just keep working together. Let's remember how to act with each other, how to be respectful, and we will get through this. And as President Bernstein said, there will be another side, and we'll be in another semester in another environment, and this will be something we can all be really proud of.
Thank you, Charlie. Let me follow on that, and by way of concluding what has been a very interesting and a very helpful conversation. Let me follow on these points to emphasize to our viewers and listeners, to all our faculty, staff, and students, that we seek you as our key partners in this experiment. You're on the frontiers of the learning environment, literally and figuratively, and you're also on the frontiers of our learning all about digital instruction, good and bad, up and down, easy and not so easy. So your input about, yes, problems, but also about solutions or suggestions or ideas for further innovation are literally like gold to us. So I hope you will always feel free to bring those suggestions forward to our teams, the technical teams over at CELT and in our Division of Information Technology, the academic leadership teams in the Provost's office, the Division of Undergraduate Education, and also other leadership teams in your respective colleges and schools. We want to continue to revise those FAQs and those information sheets and those links on our website, and we do so effectively by getting input from all of you who each and every day are learning more and more about this new digital world. I also want to conclude generally by reminding all of us in the Stony Brook community that your university is actively engaged in responding to this emergency here in this community. Many of you are dispersed, I know, but I hope you're staying connected with us in our information, distribution. You know that our hospital is leading the fight against this terrible pandemic. We have a field hospital being built on our campus to help further by the Army Corps of Engineers. You would all be so proud of what Stony Brook Medicine is accomplishing here. And of course, at the same time, we are open for instruction, and we're going to complete the spring semester and move on to summer term. And as we were talking earlier, we're going to move on to fall semester too. So I think you would all be very, very proud of the Stony Brook family and everything that's going on at your university in the midst of this terrible crisis and the emergency associated with it. So I want to thank Charlie Robbins and Patricia Aceves and Diana Voss, our colleagues who spend time with us today. I know they're very, very busy as we pursue this brave new world of digital instruction. They're making it possible for us. They're the wind beneath our wings. I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. Thank you for joining us, and we hope we'll see you and hear you again on another episode of Beyond the Expected. Thanks so much.